This is Paul Barner on COVID Detail in New York. And PJ is working on a missions moment that we can do to introduce people to have a regular update on what's going on in the Philippines. However, until my next generation son gets done with his multimedia presentation, you'll have to get used to regular two-dimensional pictures. Now, this is our orphanage in the Philippines, and CJ's there studying along with Georgie and the other kids. They're studying in-house at the orphanage in the Philippines. Also, the kids have been busy with building fences around the garden, and they cut down some branches from trees so that they can use them to build the fences. Also, one of our daughter churches, we have 26 Alliance churches that we planted. This daughter church is actually visiting again, and they have in-house worship, literally in-house, because the church meets in a house. And the communal church continue to pray for them. Then one other picture I'd like to show you, and that is some of the other kids from our school who are studying at home. And these three sisters are at home studying the papers that have been given by their teachers. Now I'd like to also read to you an update for this week. Please pray for the Philippines as President Duterte, in Presidential Proclamation number 1021, has extended the country's state of calamity until September of next year. In its battle against COVID-19, government agencies and local government units, as well as police and military, have also been directed to keep peace and order in affected areas for another 12 months, unless earlier lifted or extended as circumstances may warrant. Then we also have 3 praise items. By the way, attached to that prayer request, we would also like you to pray for Elvis and my return to the Philippines. We were hoping that she would be able to go back in November and me in January, but now they're saying that they're going to quarantine people when they come to Manila, sometimes up to 2 weeks, and then have to pay for a COVID test at that time, and it can cost as much as $1,200 per person for all the different requirements. So I said, what's the rush? Why try to get back really quick in order to do that? So just pray that they will ease up on some of the restrictions, not to make it more dangerous for the people in the Philippines, but instead to figure out a way so that they can get people to be able to travel back and also be safe for everybody involved. Okay, 3 praise items. Praise God that while I was interviewing people for the 2020 census, some have special needs, and I can't represent any religious group, so what I do is I pray for them before I get to their house, before I even know about their special needs, but I know them by address, and then after I leave, I pray for them as well. They don't know I'm praying, but I'm praying. Also, praise God that on Monday, God planned it so that at the end of my day of doing the census taking, there was a family who invited me in their backyards to see, it was at 8:30 at night, the International Space Station zoom across the sky. Then, praise God that after I shared an online Zoom prayer meeting request that the Department of Motor Vehicles would release my long-awaited license plates and registration due to COVID, they arrived in the mail 2 days later. Praise God for that. Okay, here's an update. A quote. Dad said recently, "This is just for me." And they don't know it yet, but it's just for me. While watching my 91-year-old dad, I was checking my email, and Dad, really enjoying the symphony on television, smiled as he considered that all the instruments and cannons of the 1812 overture were his own special treat. Seems the same way in life. God has orchestrated the entire thing for us. The sunsets, the special people you meet on the streets, and even the woman with cancer who I interviewed while doing the census. She was thrilled to have somebody to talk to, albeit only for a few minutes. In the Philippines, BCA's teacher Neil had wanted his 5th grade students to also feel that all the work that he had put into each lesson was just for them. Neil now teaches in a public school, but a few years ago, when he taught at BCA, Barner Christian Academy, the first day of classes had arrived. Orientation day then was different than it is now. We had all the parents in the school at once at that time. But now, just a couple days ago, when we had orientation day at BCA, due to COVID, we can only have about a dozen or so at a time there in shifts. And it makes many different shifts because we have 600 kids. However, then, as now, Elvie, who's the principal, interviewed the faculty and the staff. She is still in New York now, but PJ and she this week had worked many days in preparing a video to show the parents. Elvie discussed the new school rules and regulations for everyone to follow to keep everyone safe. Due to COVID, classes are all either online or through modules with thousands of pages hand-delivered to the households. Teachers met their new students via pictures that the parents had brought with them to school. Now, as with before, teachers would instruct their students to introduce themselves and also express their expectations for the year. They will write about their summertime experiences and read those experiences in front of their neighborhood class centers in one of our 26 church buildings. As with before, some will have had joyful experiences over the summer, but also some will have experienced not so good situations. How about music class? Inquired one parent. How will we do music at home? Min Min, who was the director for the day, is also the cashier at the school, and she shared the stage with Faith, one of BCA's secretaries. They acknowledged the importance of music in everyone's life, reminding the parents of when Teacher Neil's heart was touched when Georgian had sung while he was crying in class, since he missed his deceased grandfather, who often sang the very song that they were singing in class, which was entitled One Call Away. Faith continued, while schooling at home, you parents will have shared experiences with your children. And these are experiences which all of you can relate to at the same time. So you have actually an advantage that the teachers don't have. This year, our first time to have classes totally at home, our students do not have to feel as if they're being left out. Not at all. Rather, as with my dad watching the symphony, they can work on their modular papers, knowing all the hard work that their teachers had put into them and say, gee, this was just for me. Thank you for your prayers, and this was your missions moment about the Philippines.